One other person on that list is former Speaker of the House. The person I actually have endorsed for this position, I hope he gets it, is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
I think you'd be a great vice president. You want my reasons?
By the way, my newsletter that's about to go out is actually General Flynn's book. I do a book review of why it's such an important work, and I'm thrilled you're having him on today.
Yeah, it's great. You really sound like you're very aggressively seeking the vice presidency by praising your competition. That's just a great. As a matter of fact, I urge everyone to watch Anderson Cooper on CNN and Rachel Maddow. That's what it's like. I'm only teasing. Here's my case for you, and it's not out of friendship, although some people may think that. I first interviewed you in 1990. I watched Renewing American Civilization, tapes you put together, which became literally the foundation of Republicans taking power in 1994 with the contract with America. I emceed that event the night you became Speaker at the Cobb Galleria. I've known you all these years. Here's my point. You know, I know people may talk about age or maybe things in the past. If they talk about your past, they also have to talk about balancing the budget and welfare reform. But here are my reasons, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. I don't think there's anybody that could better prosecute the case against Hillary, which a vice president needs to do, than you. I don't think you can make the case. I don't think anybody can make the case for Donald Trump as strongly as you can. I don't think there's anybody that would deal with Congress, if you do win, that would be able to deal with a hostile Congress that included Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. And if there is something horrible that happens, God forbid, to our country in the time that Donald Trump is president, a Pearl Harbor, a 9/11, a financial collapse of some kind, I want you in that room helping to advise everybody. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Well, look, I mean, you're very flattering, and I want to be helpful in the way I can. And, I'm certainly willing to do all I can to help turn the country around. But in the end, as much as I admire you and as much as I am grateful for your enthusiasm, there's only one person that's going to make this decision. And that person isn't you or me. It's Donald Trump. And he has to decide what he believes is best in his gut. I mean, he's got to think about what's the chemistry he wants, and that's the person he should pick.
I agree with that. I think that's true. I saw you two together in Cincinnati. It seemed like you had very good chemistry to me. What are your thoughts?
No, I think we do. But again, I suspect he has pretty good chemistry with Christine. He has pretty good chemistry with Pence and with Flynn. And I wouldn't be at all shocked if there isn't a totally unknown person that has not been vetted publicly, that has not existed publicly, because I think Trump does like surprises. And so he may just pull a rabbit out of the hat.
The only problem, look, I've said this to General Flynn last night. I don't think he has the political experience to prosecute the case against Hillary or make the case for Donald Trump. His military experience, look, I'd love to see the guy as Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, maybe the CIA director. If it's an economic crisis we face, and we are facing one in many ways, I'm not sure he's the right person to be in that position for all of those things. I look at Chris Christie. I think he's a great guy, would be great in a debate, probably would be a strong advocate for Donald Trump and make the case against Hillary Clinton. I think he could prosecute that case, but he's also not loved by conservatives for a lot of reasons, and too numerous to go into. He didn't do well in every poll that I have seen. You're at 40%. Christie's at like 3%, and Pence is at 7%.
Well, first of all, I never object to you flattering me, and I never object to you bringing up positive things. And you have a huge audience, and I can tell you every time I go around the country, people walk up to me who listen to you and who figure if you like me that much, I must be okay. My only point here in the last 48 hours, and I think Trump will probably announce somebody either tomorrow or Thursday, is that this is up to the Donald. And I'm certainly prepared to do everything I can to help elect him. I think electing Hillary will be a disaster of the first order that will be bad for our country for generations to come. And I also think that if it's done right, that he could have a stunning congressional election and really have a governing majority next January. So I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. If I do that, if I'm asked to do that in the vice president's slot, that's what I'll do. If I'm asked to do that as a senior advisor, that's what I'll do. I did all I could to elect Ronald Reagan, and he didn't even offer me the vice presidency. I was a first-term congressman at the time.
Right. I understand where your motives are. Would you consider any other position if it was offered?
Well, that's a long way off, but the core answer is no. I think that what I would like to do is help reshape and rethink the federal government and be able to move across the whole bureaucracy. And that would probably require, it's something I did for people like Don Rumsfeld and Tommy Thompson in the Bush years. And I think it's a place where I can be a pretty helpful person in trying to rethink this stuff.
Well, I think that's what you're best at. And knowing you personally, I also know that you're a believer in lifelong learning. You read more than anybody that I know. I also think that you're a more relaxed person. I don't know if that's a fair statement than you were when the time you were speaker. I remember you wrote a book at the time, Lessons Learned the Hard Way. I know that faith has really become a big part of your life in, the last 10 or 15 years. I know that, renewing, I'm going to get the name wrong, renewing
American civilization.
And God and faith in America. I mean, you've now put together a lot of series of things that deal with faith and the Pope and other issues.
Well, Chris and I have been very fortunate. We've done a remarkable movie on John Paul II called 9 Days That Changed the World. We just did a great movie on George Washington called The First American. She's about to have her sixth Ellis the Elephant children's book come out teaching American history to 4 to 8-year-olds. And I'm about to have my second novel, Treason, come out about terrorism in the United States and overseas. So, we stay pretty busy. But at the same time, as you point out, I do try to work. We've got a great team that we work with at Gingrich Productions. And we try to work on everything from reforming the Veterans Administration to rethinking the role of honest money to developing infrastructure programs for the country. So
we also did Rediscovering God in America. That was a big hit for you.
That was a great movie and also a great book. And of course, we just issued a reissue that's a much bigger, prettier, better book that Cliff really had a big role in of Rediscovering God in America. It's a very effective book, and it's one that I think people like.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, religion and morality are indispensable supports. You quote George Washington. That was in Rediscovering God with America. Let me move on to some issues. This will play out on its own, I guess, in the next few days. The State Department paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money in the form of grants to an Israeli group that used the money to build a campaign to oust Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in last year's Israeli parliamentary elections, according to a congressional investigation. $350,000 was sent to One Voice to support the group's efforts to back Israeli-Palestinian peace resettlement negotiations. They used the money to build a voter database, train activists, and hire political consulting firms with ties to Obama's campaign, which set the stage for an anti-Netanyahu campaign. Wow. Does that disturb you?
Look, the Congress will be looking into that because this idea that the Obama administration goes around the world trying to change governments it doesn't like. And by the way, notice that they're mostly pro-American governments. I mean, Netanyahu is our most solid ally in the Middle East, whereas they want to give $150 billion to the Iranian dictatorship, which is our enemy, while they're trying to knock off Netanyahu, who's our ally. It tells you how totally upside down the Obama worldview is. If you're pro-American, he wants to undermine you and weaken you. If you're anti-American, he wants to do all he can to help you and praise you.
What do you make of giving $150 billion to Iran, not being able to say radical Islam, giving Mohammed Morsi, the former Muslim Brotherhood head, when they ousted Mubarak in the Arab Spring, he gets F-16s, tanks, and $1.5 billion taxpayer dollars, that he's always on the wrong side of every issue. What do you think it is?
I think that there is an inherent desire to weaken America that is part of, it goes all the way back to the classes you took at Columbia as an undergraduate. I think is part of the radical left-wing worldview that he and Hillary believe in. and that you talked about so eloquently in the summer of 2008, and you were the only guy in the country that understood it. The fact is, Barack Obama is a classic left-wing ideologue who believes that a weak America is better, and that he said one time he doesn't want to talk about winning. Well, if I'm fighting ISIS, I want to talk about winning. If I'm fighting the Nazis, I want to talk about winning. If I'm fighting the Soviet Union, I want to talk about winning. I mean, what kind of an American president explains he doesn't want to talk about winning? What does he want to talk about? Losing or fighting to a tie? But he has a consistent, deep need to be positive about the people who hate us and to be negative about people who are for us.
Mm-hmm. If you were to make the case why Donald Trump is the best person to be president, just off the top of your head, make that case.
The United States is in a genuine, deep crisis in which its government is corrupt, bureaucratic, believes it's more powerful and superior to the American people, has a disastrous foreign policy that risks real defeat at the hands of our enemies, and is using the power of the government to impose radical values on the American people. That has to be changed. To change that, you need a person of enormous strength with great management capabilities, somebody who's not afraid of the old order, who's not afraid of the establishment, somebody who will both tell the truth and who will then, with enormous energy, lead a series of fights to move the system back to the classic American model of limited government, strong national defense, and very, very active job creation in the private sector. I think that Donald Trump understands those at the most basic of levels. I think he has the courage to do it, and I think he has the energy and the drive to do it.
This is my case. Everything, I've interviewed him so many times. He likes reining in government spending. He even likes my penny plan or Connie Mack's penny plan. I like his solution to replace Obamacare with health savings accounts. He has advocated for expanding coal mining and drilling and fracking and nuclear technology so we can be energy independent. It creates jobs, and it makes us not dependent anymore on countries that hate us. I like his ideas to fix the VA. I like building up our military, which has been depleted. I like the idea of a border and securing that border. I even have come to agree with him on military intervention after Iraq and Afghanistan, and we lose the war politically. I agree with him on choice in education and giving it back to the states. Isn't that what every conservative you would think would want?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the biggest things that we have said over the years that we believe in, that Donald Trump is, if not a traditional movement conservative, the most effective ally we've seen. He brings in new people. He brings in new ideas. He has enormous courage. He has, with him in the contest, Republican turnout's gone up 63%. It's really quite remarkable.
What do you think of him personally?
I think he is one of the smartest people I've ever met and one of the most energetic and very, very complicated.
You know what? You're describing yourself with all due respect, except I don't think you're that complicated.
He is. I mean, he's much more complicated than I am.
But in a good way. You're not saying that as a pejorative. You're saying, because I find his complications fascinating. I know what you mean. I don't think most people would understand what that means.
Well, I think people think because he's able to use simple language that he's a simple person, but he's not. He's a person who learns rapidly, thinks deeply, and is remarkably effective.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we always enjoy having you on the program. It'll be interesting to see if your life changes dramatically this week. We'll be watching closely.
And I'm looking forward to being with you every single night next week.
At the convention. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Mr. Speaker, always enjoy your time. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. I just think he's the right person. By the way, let's do a poll in there. Who do you guys like? Real quick. Linda, who do you like?
Newt.
Who do you like, Linda? Lauren?
I love Newt.
Who do you like, Jason?
Newt.
Who do you like? What's your name again? Ethan.
Newt.
Wow. I have a great team. Do you guys, is it because did I appeal to you, or on your own you like him?
I just feel like I could sleep better at night, knowing that he would be the VP choice. I could really sleep better knowing that.
Yeah. And I did not force anybody to say that. By the way, I couldn't if I wanted to. I have no authority over my staff. It's ridiculous. It's right? True or false?
Absolutely.